What's up, everybody? Hope y'all are doing good. So y'all, today's video is going to be on something that this is kind of a touchy subject for me, and this is probably one of the more, I guess, important videos and subjects that I feel like I cover on this channel, just because of the impact that it made on my life, and that is dealing with family members after you come out. Because, you know, I did not have a good experience with that at all. It was a nightmare is what it felt like. It was just a disaster. You know, and for years I just was traumatized and upset by that. And I held in so much resentment towards my family that it started to ruin my own life. And I started carrying around that hurt and that anger, and it leaked into all areas of my life, you know, into my romantic relationships. You know, I was looking for a partner that was almost, I guess, like a father figure, a parental figure, because I think deep down I missed mine so much. Because, you know, my childhood growing up, you know, everybody has things that happen in their childhood. Everybody's parents didn't always say or do the right things of, you know, what they should. But overall, my childhood was wonderful. I could not have asked for anything better. You know, I didn't grow up in a broken home. My parents, they were married, lived together, and they had a wonderful relationship. I had a younger brother, and me and him always got along so well, and we still do to this day. We're very close. We talk every day. And, you know, we grew up in a very financially stable home, and we lived in a nice house. I mean, we had everything that I guess would be considered like the American dream. And, you know, for that, I'm very thankful, because a lot of people didn't have that. And I realized that the older I get, you know, I thought that's just how everyone's life was when I was younger. But that's so far from the truth. You know, growing up, I loved my parents. I loved my whole family so much. I was such a family guy. You know, I did anything and everything that I could for them. So, you know, it took me by surprise. You know, I grew up knowing, you know, or, you know, hearing that homosexuality was wrong. It was sinful, you know, because I did grow up very, very Southern Baptist. I come from a long line of Baptist and Pentecostal preachers. Even at one point when I was a kid, I wanted to be a preacher, because I loved my grandpa so much. He was a Pentecostal preacher, and I used to love to spend time with him. I learned so much from him. He's the one that taught me to play guitar, and I started when I was 6. So I've been playing for like well over about 25 years now. I've been playing, and it's all because of him. But, you know, y'all, after my family found out, it hurt them so bad. And a lot of people, you know, and even myself, I just could not understand how that could hurt them, you know. But my generation is different than my parents' generation. You know, our generation, I'm a millennial, you know, that's, to me, they're the generation that really started coming around to stuff and really started being progressive. But, you know, my parents' generation, my dad was born in the mid-60s. My mama was born in the early 70s. So, you know, their way of looking at the world and way of thinking was different than my generation's, because they grew up in a more conservative, more religious type setting. My mother was the youngest of 5, to a preacher's daughter, and my dad was the second oldest of 6 kids and the only boy. So, you know, to being the only boy, he had a lot of pressure growing up to be the manly type and to carry on the last name. And so, you know, that has really, I think, played a role and an impact on why he was not too fond of it and was not okay with it. And, you know, my mother, more of the religious reasons why, and I guess also because my father didn't agree with it. And my mother's always stuck by my father's side. She's always been basically what you would call a very loyal, very good wife. So I think that was just in her nature, and what she felt was right is to follow her husband. But, you know, y'all, for the longest time, I was so pissed off. I was hurt. You know, at first I cried a lot. You know, I cried off and on for years. Certain situations would come up, certain memories, and Just looking at everyone else's life around me, like all my cousins that I grew up with, they were like brothers and sisters, seeing them move on with their life, seeing them with their boyfriends and girlfriends and, eventually their spouses and children, all coming around and being treated like, to me, I guess they were treated like how a normal couple would. And I just, I did not have that. For the longest time, I was not allowed to bring anyone around, and I never really even talked about it. I was never asked questions about my personal life. Nobody was involved. I mean, it was me on my own, trying to figure out all kinds of shit by myself. And it was hard. I fucked up so many times because I look at it because I didn't have anybody really to talk to. I just kind of had to guess and hope that my decisions led me the right way, but a lot of them did not. And, when I would make bad decisions and something bad would happen and I would express that or kind of talk about it around my family, they looked more at it as, well, that's how that lifestyle is, it's because of the way you're living. And, that used to kill me. I was just like, I used to hope and pray. I was like, God, please let them come around to an extent, even if it's just a little bit. And finally, my realization, y'all, happened one day. It didn't happen it wasn't like an epiphany, just like at a certain moment. But, I had been going to therapy and had really been, involved in my spirituality and really kind of digging into my soul and searching for answers about life. And, I realized one day that I have got to let go of the anger. I've got to let go of the bitterness, because it's only attracting and bringing in more of that. And we are never going to move forward as a family if I'm sitting here pissed off. Because, y'all, and you got to think about it, if I'm sitting there pissed off and they know I'm pissed off and they know I'm bitter and resentful and hateful and shit, even if they have the slightest notion to take a step forward, they're not going to, seeing that I'm sitting there pissed off, because they're going to think that, well, I don't want it. So why would they say anything? Why would they try to move forward? Because all they think is, if they say something to me, they're just going to get backlash. They're just going to get a bunch of attitude and all of that. And so, I had to be the bigger person. I made the first step by letting go of the anger and the hurt and really starting to move forward. And, a lot of people around me, in the gay community and stuff, and even some of my straight friends, their attitude was, oh, just cut them off, be done with them, drop them. And that was hard to do. I tried doing that for a couple years when I moved off, but it did not feel right to me. And plus me moving off, that 2 years, y'all, that I was gone, it really changed our whole relationship. And when I finally moved back to South Carolina from Missouri, it was like a totally different ball game. So, me moving off like that, it was hard. It was not always easy, but that is the best thing that ever happened to the relationship between me and my family, especially me and my parents. I guess it's because that distance really, it made the heart grow fonder, and then they really realized that they missed me being around. And so, when I came back, it's almost like I had been treated normally. And it's like, I'm so glad that I never gave up on them. I gave them their time. I gave them their, because they did, y'all. They were doing what they felt was right by rejecting that lifestyle, because they were taught that was wrong. And, they grieved over that because they thought that their son they thought I turned my back on them and chose something that I knew was wrong and just didn't care. So, I gave them their time to grieve. I looked at it from their point of view. I put my, I looked at things from as if I was in their shoes. And that was hard to do, because when you're pissed off and all that, and you're angry and resentful, the last thing on this earth you want to do is to try to be compassionate towards whoever you're pissed off at, and try to put yourself in their shoes, because, you just want to lash out at them. You want to just think they're wrong, I'm right. The human ego really it can be such a bitch sometimes. But, if for whatever reason, guys, y'all are going through what I went through, I know you feel hopeless. I know you feel sad. I know you're angry. But my best the best advice that I can give you is to give it time. It took my parents over, about 10 years. It took 10 years. Most of my 20s, I'm 30 now. Most of my 20s was spent, me feeling like I was on my own all the time. And, a lot of people would have just given up. I know that, because 10 years is a long time. It's a whole decade. And by the end of those 10 years, I had gotten tired dealing with it, but, I still did not let myself give up. And I am so glad. I thank God every day for that I had the strength and the willpower to wait it out. Because, when they saw a change in me, they because you can feel energy shift in people. And when they saw a change in me, and me being more kind and compassionate and understanding of their point of view, they did the same thing for me. Because I guess we met at we had a meeting point that we set, and we decided to meet at it. We decided to not stay angry and hurt and upset at each other, but, we chose to heal as a family. So if you're going through that, just give it time, y'all. That's really, I really hope you do, especially if you grew up close to your family and your parents. I know some people did not. So some people, it may not quite be a huge loss, but that does not mean let them sit and treat you like a dog. Do not let them, if they start being abusive severely, whether it's mentally, especially physically. Of course, there comes a point in time that you have to drop them. If it's affecting you in such a way that you're just plummeting down, you have to let it go. And, maybe you have to let it go for a certain amount of time, like I did. Maybe that's really what you need, because, I always believe that God, the universe, source, whatever you believe in, will lead you exactly to where you're meant to be. And me going through that, y'all, it turned me into a brand new person. I feel like it made me more of a man. When all that was going on, I was basically just a little boy. I was still growing up. I was learning how to manage my emotions, learning more about myself, learning to get past that awful little temper I had, because I had a hell of a temper. So I really learned to manage myself and to be a bigger person instead of being just so hateful and getting mad if everybody doesn't see everything through my eyes and through my point of view, because there's going to be people out there your whole entire life that is not going to agree with you on certain things. They are not going to see things through your eyes, and you just have to accept that and get over it and move on. Because if that bothers you so bad when someone does not agree with you, you are in for a hell of a hard life. That's all I can say. You're going to be mad all the time, and to me that is so immature. I can't stand people like that. I can't, and I know that's probably a harsh, strong thing to say, but people like that get under my skin so bad. You're like, it's such a big ass baby. Like, you are a big ass whiny baby, and you need to grow up. So, I know that sounds pretty mean, but it's the truth. I cannot deny that is exactly how I feel. So, guys, please give it time, and know that you are loved, even if they are pissed off at you and they don't like the way you're living. Give it time and be the bigger person, and, really try to wait it out and show unconditional love the best way you can. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. But if you do that, I guarantee that you'll see results. So, guys, thank y'all so much for watching this video. I really hope this content on this video, I absolutely hope that y'all really listen to it and let it sink in, if you're going through this, because you are loved and you will make it. You will absolutely make it through. So, guys, I will see y'all soon with another video. Y'all have a wonderful week, and I will be back shortly. Bye, guys.